Howdy, y'all. We're waiting for Eck, and we've been deserted by Jillian. And in the interim, when in all doubt, we talk about progressive rock or we talk about rock and roll. And Russ, I have long had a bone to pick with Rolling Stone magazine because I think they play favorites, and I think that, they don't respect certain genres of music that a lot of people do, and it shows up whenever they do one of these top 100 this or top 50 that. And I don't know how recent this poll was because I know
March 31st.
Yeah, so and it just popped up on my Facebook feed, and it was the top 100 drummers of all time. And okay, I don't have a problem with some of the ratings. They rated Stuart Copeland from the Police in the top 10. Neil Peart was fourth. I think he deserves to be a little higher. You don't think you think that's about right?
I think he's right where he should be. Right 4 or 5. That's fine.
John Bonham was the number one. I would quibble a little bit with that. Number two.
I would too.
But our favorite music is progressive rock. Phil Collins. Okay, take away all the all the You Can't Hurry Love stuff and the hit stuff from the 80s. In the 70s, this was the prototypical progressive rock drummer, well respected, and he was ranked 43rd.
The problem, I'll tell you, just stop it there for a sec, because the problem with that one is when you read the initial article and you figure out what their specs are, how they're grading it, they don't even mention progressive rock, yet they do mention pop, rock, funk, jazz, like those kinds of things. Everything but progressive rock. So I already knew going into it that they would leave guys off on purpose because they just don't respect it. And so Carl Palmer, not even in the top 100. Seriously, I've never seen a better live drummer than Carl Palmer in my life, and that's including like Neil Peart, because I haven't seen Neil Peart live. I've seen him on live videos, but I would argue it. I would say you could go neck and neck. You can go neck and neck with John Bonham, who I've seen. And to me, it's crazy.
And I've seen Neil Peart going back to 1981 when I was 14 years old. So, I saw him in his prime, and I saw him only the last couple of years. But this was the top 100 drummers poll by Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah, I was listening.
And, it's clueless when it has Max Weinberg in the top 100 or Charlie Watts 12th.
The other one that we really didn't like, Alan White. Alan White's not even in there. And the interesting thing about that is he may not be the best. He might not be the fastest. He played a lot with John Lennon, so John Lennon thought enough of him to have him in his band. He was, for the Give Peace a Chance tour, that was his drummer, so that's a pretty big deal. His career with Yes, plus for Owner of a Lonely Heart, that nice, cool little drum thing that sort of gave that a #1 hit, he invented that. That was a new technology that didn't exist until he put it on record. He's not even in the top 100, so F you, Rolling Stone.
Okay, I'm not.
Well, that there's a couple things.
Go ahead.
A couple things musically here to talk about for a second, just real fast. Then we get into the show. Okay, so first of all, Carl Palmer has his detractors among drummers in the world, in the rock world. I know that for sure.
I know that too.
I'm not saying that Listen, I've worked with lots of different drummers, and there are very, very few good drummers in the world. In general. This is the hardest thing to find when you're starting a band or whatever. Is when you need a drummer, they're expensive, and the good drummers are just phenomenal. Phil Collins is definitely in the top 20 drummers of all time.
Thank you.
No question about it. I would put Max in the top 100 though for sure.
I'm not saying he doesn't belong in the top 100. I think he was in the 60s, and I think
that's probably about right. It's you got to remember what a drummer is, and there's so many different kinds of drummers. Like Neil Peart, who I'd put in the top 5, for sure is like an incredible technical, phenomenal, double kick drummer. Like all these kind of crazy things where you're simply like Ringo Starr, who a lot of people think is a terrible drummer, but honestly, his drum parts, were so simple, but have been duplicated and just reduplicated forever by the people, the Amy Manns of the world and stuff like that, who completely have gone into. So there's a whole. Basically, the drummer for it's almost like the right tool for the project. It's like the right drummer for the project is really so comparing these drummers is almost like comparing apples and oranges because.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, technical drummers
Right.
who fit the style of the band, like Ringo. I mean, I don't think the Beatles would have been the same if they had like a Ginger Baker going all over the place. It would have been too much.
No, and
But you know what? Eck brings up a good point too. So Bill Bruford's 16, considering he was in jazz, fusion, rock, and dominated all those fields pretty much. He wasn't the best jazz drummer, but clearly up there. How is he 16? Like, that's ridiculous.
yeah, I mean, he's it's really an impossible comparison. I mean,
It is.
I mean, the funny. I had a discussion, and we'll go on after this. But discussion the other day about the Beatles with somebody that was, and I love talking about the Beatles. And I don't think I mentioned this to you guys, but we talked about which one of the 4 Beatles would have been the most successful had the Beatles never gotten together as a foursome. Like, which one of them would have had the best musical career, and it probably would have been Ringo. I mean, and honestly, because the funny thing was, he was actually the only one who was actually making a living at the time.
Yeah, he was a session. He was a session drummer. Yeah.
And but these guys were all session players, and granted, they're great songwriters and all that stuff. But just as a musician, just like if you were just taking,
you're saying just as a job as a musician.
As a musician, and Paul McCartney became one of the best bass players. Paul McCartney is one of the top 5 bass players of all time.
I agree.
But there's no question that
I don't know. George Harrison's his guitar is pretty innovative, and I think that.
Oh yeah, no, George Harrison.
Yeah.
Text Russ just put Jillian is slowly dying on the screen. Let's move on.
I'm just not even listening because I have literally nothing to add to this conversation.
Yes. This is your musical education.
I'm looking at Snapchat and everything. So I'm keeping up with social media. Staying young.
Great. We're talking about the history of rock, and she's putting dog faces and lips on.
I was actually not doing that, and Russ will attest. I didn't do it yesterday, so I made myself a dog. So there.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's begin, shall we?
Sure.
Let me bring up my notes here so as to just completely do the show blind. All right, here we go. All right. Not gonna talk about the KHL.
You just did.
I know.
I like the hat too, by the way. I'm Twitter friends with Renee Holland. We always go back and forth.
Are you really?
It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Oh, I love this show. And I mean, it's my son and I.
It's a comedy.
It's a total comedy, but it's hilarious. It's awesome.
It is.
Finding Bigfoot is the show, guys. If you're anyway, let's begin. I believe Bigfoot's real. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, September 13th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Jillian Fisher.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com.
We didn't have an intro yesterday, did we?
No, we didn't.
No.
This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to keep you updated on the hockey comings going. Sorry, I don't have much of a voice today for some reason. My whole family's decided to get a cold and pass it on to me, so I'm doing my best here. But we're going to do well today. We have a lot of fun things to discuss. And my goodness, I want to start with Ben Bishop because I did not think there would be any Ben Bishop rumors during these actual World Cup of Hockey, but because he's playing in the actual World Cup of Hockey, but apparently there are. And a name that came up today, which was really fascinating to me, I wanted to throw out to you guys, was St. Louis. And I know that this sounds crazy from all, we just know that, St. Louis obviously just moved. They traded Elliott to Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
They're going with Jake Allen finally.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about a trade that's going to happen before the season, but what I'm told here is that come trade deadline time, don't be surprised if Hitch isn't thrilled with Jake Allen. This is Hitch's last season. This is his last shot. If they went out and made a run for Ben Bishop to bring him in.
Let's not forget they drafted Ben Bishop.
I know, and he's from St. Louis.
I mean, so they let him go once.
I know, and that's the crazy thing. He's a St. Louis resident, or was born and bred in St. Louis. Played hockey in the really awesome St. Louis youth hockey program, which is great.
You're right.
Which is underrated right now and coming up strong.
Which is blowing up.
If you think about their postseason run last year, everyone, even though I thought the goaltending held itself, it got them that far. They were still highly critical of it. It was still, everyone still felt like it was a question mark. If they're making a run to the playoffs and if they think they can go deep, wouldn't that kind of solve people's question mark about their goaltending?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, it is interesting. And the one thing about Hitchcock that I've known to be a fact is he hates small goalies. Now, this is why, Elliott always had trouble with Jake Allen, basically, because, Allen's a bigger goalie. Bishop is a huge goalie. He's right. And I do think that there would be some irony here of him ending up back there. He'd have to waive his no trade clause to go there. But I think, I don't know why he wouldn't. I mean, bygones be bygones. It's a chance to play for a team that could win a Stanley Cup.
Well, I mean, okay, he's 1 year away from being an unrestricted free agent. So, if he wants to go to St. Louis as a rental and take a shot at the Stanley Cup, if he's going to be the backup in Tampa to Vasilevsky, I mean, I think that's where things have to sort of play out, and where I think what you're saying is accurate, because I think if they go Bishop and Vasilevsky and maybe go half and half, split the duty, and Vasilevsky proves that last year's playoff is not a fluke, and I think he's a good young goaltender, so that's likely, and they can't get Bishop re-signed if there's a willingness there for him to re-sign, then trade makes sense, but then you have to consider what is coming back from St. Louis, and it probably would have to be a high draft pick or a pretty decent prospect, like maybe a Barbashev or
somebody who's not involved in the playoffs for them. Like it would have to be somebody that's not going to hurt their chances at the playoff run. The other two teams, go ahead, Jillian, go.
I was going to say, if you're Tampa, why risk that though? Because then what happens if Vasilevsky gets hurt and he's your go-to guy? Wouldn't you want to have Bishop there too? I guess I see the expansion draft coming. Like it just doesn't seem like it makes any sense from Tampa's perspective. I don't know how it would work out with the expansion draft, because if you have a goalie you want to get rid of, why not just keep, especially since he's going to be a UFA.
Well,
he's going to be a UFA anyway.
They do have Gudlevskis, right? And he's still a pretty good backup. And so I think it's hard to pronounce his name.
They have by far the most letters of
Yes.
any team when it comes to goaltenders. When you think about it, like
they have the market corner.
between Vasilevsky and Gudlevskis or whatever it is. It's
But I think they could get by with that, so I don't think that's outrageous. And I think St. Louis wouldn't retain Bishop, because otherwise they would either lose Binnington or Allen. Like they would lose a goalie, right? So I think the haul for it wouldn't be as high as people would think, because Tampa really can't re-sign him either until after the expansion draft, or they would lose him. Same thing with St. Louis. So I think you could get him for fairly cheap. I mean, cheap for Ben Bishop.
And this is what I think that is the other interesting thing about this. I think that although they might continue this year, it really feels like Ben Bishop and the Tampa Bay Lightning have broken up. They might be living together for the children, but they are not, I mean, really, it's not, at the end of the day. I don't know, really, because when you hear Ben Bishop talk now, even now, and there's been some stuff going on during the World Cup where he's talked about what happened with Calgary at the draft, and how he was working on a contract with Calgary when they traded for Brian Elliott. Like he thought he was going to Calgary. He thought that was a done deal. And then, then they trade for Elliott. So when you get to that point, when you've gotten to that point as a player, where you've actually discussed a contract with another team and it just doesn't work out because of a trade, you're broken up. I mean, and when that happens, even though, Tampa would be stupid to move him right now, because yes, you need to have a top goalie and you need to go forward, and it could continue moving forward. It could get done if the right thing happens, if the right pieces are there. That's the thing.
I mean, there's so many parallels to what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. I mean, Matt Murray won the Stanley Cup and is, likely the #1 goaltender for the next decade, but you don't know whether, and he, his career in the minors, his talent would indicate that he's a #1 goaltender, but you never know. There's always the possibility of a player stepping back after having such success early on, and they keep Marc-Andre Fleury around because that's a good insurance policy. Now, with Tampa Bay, I mean, we know that Bishop takes up almost $6 million on the cap. We know that they have to sign Kucherov. That might be a consideration here, where if they move him early enough in the season, then they can sign Kucherov to that long-term extension. That might be what's at work here.
I think the situations are different, because I think Bishop and Tampa have parted ways a lot more intensely than Fleury and Pittsburgh have. I think
I agree with that.
I think I think there are different. I think that Fleury could still end up being the guy. It's completely possible, but I don't think Bishop is going to be the guy. I think that's not going to happen. I think Bishop's going to be there.
Consideration for clearing up money for Kucherov is potentially real. I mean, I think
right, and that has to happen, right? So they have to do that at some point. They don't have to do it yet, but
and if that's the consideration, then Tampa Bay can't be taking back money in the deal. It's not like they could trade Bishop to St. Louis and take Patrick Berglund or somebody like that back, because that would eat up most of the money they'd be clearing on Bishop's contract. If the purpose of trading Bishop is because you have depth in the organization, and with Gudlevskis and with Vasilevsky, and like you said, that's a Scrabble combination there. With those two guys, then you're clearing that $5.75, I think it is, $1 million to sign Kucherov to that long-term deal.
right, and that's what you're gonna have to do. So eventually you're gonna lose Bishop one way or the other, basically. And that's the couple quick news points. Monahan, who we talked about yesterday, is skating and is going to be ready for the start of training camp. He was hurt. That's usually important. And I heard somebody yesterday talking on the radio on XM about the Gaudreau situation, and and how everybody seems to think that Johnny Gaudreau will get signed. And I do agree. I think he's going to get signed too. I don't think there's any question about it that he's going to get signed. It's just a matter of is it going to be $7 million or is it going to be $7.5 million? I think it's really good. It's come down somewhere in there. Gaudreau's not going to hold out. People are freaking out about that.
He's not holding out.
He's not the holdout type of player.
No.
And they really, what they don't want to do is this, though. And someone brought up a good point and I do kind of agree with this. Gaudreau pretty well, Russ, obviously from South Jersey and growing up around him.
I've interviewed him 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a bridge deal player because of the fact that there's a lot of people that think he would love to come back east and play. And that you really have to, not that he doesn't like playing in Calgary, he does like playing in Calgary, but if there's a possibility of not, this is a player that you could see ending up, on the Devils, Flyers, Caps, Rangers. Yeah. There is in that, you can see him coming back to this area and play.
I think that's real. I think if it ever got to the point, we don't see offer sheets anymore.
Yeah.
If there was a chance to sign him to an offer sheet, he might be the player GMs would break their back to sign an offer sheet to.
Yeah. Yeah, he reminds me of that a lot, and he does. And this would be a tough spot for Calgary to be in.
Yeah.
So the bridge deal concept is really scary for them, and they're trying to avoid it. If they do sign a bridge deal, it's kind of all bets are off type thing, I think, with Gaudreau. But I don't even know what kind of a bridge deal you get for him, because it's going to be expensive. Even a bridge deal is going to be short-term expensive. And I understand that last year he had he did struggle a little bit on the road, they were saying, and his numbers are different.
That team was a tire fire. I mean,
yeah.
I watched that team with like a month and a half left in the season, and it was awful. He was one of the only shining lights on the team, him and Monahan and a few other guys. Dougie Hamilton was playing well. But, I mean, I saw them in New Jersey, and, and they just looked awful. And so I can't hold anything against Gaudreau based on last year.
Yeah. No, I agree with that totally. So now let's get into this day in John Tortorella. Ready?
There we go.
We need some music or some kind of theme for this. Wouldn't it be good? All right. So Torts comes out yesterday, and now this is, and I'm starting to actually. I was thinking of doing a vlog in the style of young Jillian there, who does great vlogs about this, because I'm starting to like Tortorella.
Shut up. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
I know. This is why.
What's this vlog going to be called? Like This Day in Torts?
Right.
That's a really great one, because he does something stupid all the time.
Tort du jour? This is the thing about it, okay?
Tort.
This guy's real. For whatever it's worth, I mean, he is real. Like, you can get fired from your NHL team and sign somewhere else. You cannot get fired from your country and sign somewhere else. So for him to be saying the kind of stuff he's saying now, he really does not care whether he's
When has he ever cared?
I know, but you'd always think, like, it's one thing to be on a team and, you're going to get another job in the NHL somewhere, but you can't, if the USA cuts you out, you're out. That's it.
I've actually heard a lot of people complain about this with Team USA, like the people they have representing the team. Like, they have Kane pretty much as the face. You have Tortorella as the coach, who they've been using a lot of what he's saying. And it's just like, really, there's other players on the team that maybe you could give more media attention to. And it's not taking away anything from their skill on the ice, but it's like, do you really want these people to be the face of your country's team? So I have heard a lot of that argument. And it makes sense.
I don't think they have a choice, though, Jillian. He was the winning coach in U.S. history, and they've not used him to this point. Everybody knew they had to use him at some point.
Yeah, well, Jillian, what are we going to do? Get an ebullient personality like Phil Kessel?
You can put him in his place when he's being a jerk.
Yeah,
That's for sure. It's one thing you can do. I mean, they're not doing anything to help it.
Well, it's funny because
I like the when he's being a jerk.
No, here's the thing. There's nothing you can do. The only time, and I mean the only time I ever saw John Tortorella back down from anything was after the beginning of his Ranger term when he squirted the fans with a water bottle. Glenn Sader definitely got to him and definitely got him to calm down for a few months. That's as much as you can get him to calm down.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but again, we have to remember, like we were talking yesterday, the NHL has some say in this. Players that get suspended in this tournament get suspended in the NHL league as the regular season as well. So there is something that they can do. They just don't want to do anything, and that's very common in every league in America. It's not just the NHL.
ESPN's pushing them, so they're not going to touch
That's
them.
because it's the only way ESPN knows how to do hockey. I mean, the NHL had already made statements. The one I'm talking about, obviously, is the Anthem one. The NHL had already released a statement on what would happen. You could have shut your mouth and not said anything. You could have been like, the NHL already answered that question. Why don't you go look at that? You could have given all the attitude you wanted to because you're Tortorella and you like giving attitude. Well, tell her to go read the damn statement for herself.
I mean, obviously, it meant something to him because his son is a U.S. Army Ranger in Afghanistan,
which is great. I respect that. I do.
Yeah.
But the NHL already. This is ESPN.
The NHL made a statement after the fact.
No, the NHL already made a statement like a week before.
Okay, well,
it was
so Tortorella could have kept his mouth shut, given the attitude he wanted to give because that's Tortorella.
Is it John Tortorella's fault or is it Linda Cohn's fault?
Both. I'm going to go with both. They're both equally responsible.
But you also have to remember here that this is ESPN. This is the playbook by ESPN.
Oh, absolutely.
With any of their coverages, with Brett Favre and the situation he had with the Jets, the coverage of Tim Tebow, the coverage of OJ back in the day. They're a sensationalistic organization, and for something that they needed to gin up some kind of controversy, this feeds right into them because now it's what are they going to talk about John Tortorella every day until the start of the World Cup? Probably.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's not going away anywhere else, which is fine. I have no problem having the conversation. You guys know I don't. But it was just an unnecessary thing. It didn't need to be brought up by the reporter. Tortorella could have been like, the NHL already made. This is the problem I have with the faces they have for Team USA is that they don't do anything to help their image. They do nothing to help it.
No, they're feeding this image. Torts is very calculated about what he's doing here. He's a very smart guy. He's feeding his image here, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to make like we are the USA. We are tough, and we're not going to He's the Donald Trump of coaches, essentially.
You forgot to say what he had said recently because you said
what he said. So what he said before. Excuse me. I'm going to get a lot of letters about the Donald Trump comment, but I'm just saying, people in Tennessee, that I believe that honestly that what he's doing here is because every time I mention Trump, I get letters from people in Tennessee. And I love people in Tennessee. So let's move on.
No, wait, you didn't say what he said.
He is going to.
I'm going to right now.
Okay. I thought we were moving on from this.
Yesterday, Tortorella came out and basically ripped on Max Pacioretty. Okay, now if you want to get people going on the internet, rip on the Montreal Canadiens captain. There's a good bet. That's a good thing that's a good way to go. You're going to be able to do that, which of course led to all kinds of other things because that's what happens when the Montreal Canadiens are talked about. He was not terrible to Pacioretty at all. And to Tort's credit, I mean, he actually mellowed it out. He's like, if he's going to play more, he's going to have to give me more. He's a great player. He's a good kid. He knows what he's got to do. So it wasn't like he was completely tearing him apart, but it was enough.
This is Torts 101. Yeah. Torts does this with every team he's on. Yeah. Ryan Johansson, Marian Gaborik. You could go name the guys. Vinny Prospal in Tampa. And what the other thing is? He's already in practice. He's already starting to say that, hey, Dubinsky and I forget who the other player now is going to be scratched, and he's going to use Bufflin as a forward, which he did with Stu Bickle on the Rangers. Like, this is all because John Tortorella does this every time.
You know what this is, and what this is, and I can't stand this sort of double standard. If Barry Trotz had said something similar about Max Pacioretty, if he was coaching Team USA, this would not be any kind of scandal or controversy at all. It's because it's coming from Torts. It's because and I've witnessed this. The Canadian media does not like him. They whip this up, and they whip this up.
This is the perfect thing. This is all about getting under the skin of Canadian fans, of making them hate US more, making the whole thing when the teams play each other, make it bigger, make it more intimidating in the heads of the Canadian players. Really interesting stuff, and basically. This is an old trick. Like I've told the story before, I think, about Tom Laidlaw and Herb Brooks, but it's a good story. And so Herb Brooks, the former coach of the U.S. Miracle on Ice team, and Tom Laidlaw was at that time, I think, an assistant captain, or was he a captain of the Rangers? He was
assistant. He was an assistant
captain of the Rangers, right? He played a game, and this is when Herb was coach, and he played a game where he was really sick. Like Laidlaw was thrown up on the bench. He said, "I had a terrible stomach virus. I was doing my best. I was out there. I was hacking up everywhere. Everybody knew it. The whole team was like." They were, the team had my back, but I still played because I'm, that's kind of, he's a Canadian farm kid. He plays, so he's out there and he's playing. The next day in practice, Brooks brings me to the office and says to him, "Okay, I'm going to tear you apart today in practice, just so you know. I'm going to about your play yesterday. Don't worry about it. I'm just doing it to get the team pissed off." And that's so he goes in but Herb Brooks told him this ahead of time. This is the difference between like Brooks and Tortorella, because I'm sure Tortorella did not have this discussion with Pacioretty, but I think the same thing is happening. So. So he goes in, and then the practice comes, and he tears them apart. Laidlaw, you're a bum. You're not da da da. And of course, Laidlaw being one of the most popular players on the team, this gets all the other players really pissed off at the coach, right? And this gets them, and then they start playing harder, and they start winning, and they start doing things like that. And it was a trick, and what we saw here is Pacioretty is also one of the most popular players on the U.S. team. I mean, there's no question that. There's a reason this guy is captain. He is a popular guy. He's a funny guy. He's a smart guy. He's well put together. He really but when you go after Pacioretty, it's going to piss some people off on the team.
Well, it's funny because what this is also spurred on, apparently, and I heard this on one of the radio shows this morning, was the fact that there is a Montreal television station that was reporting that Michel Therrien doesn't want Pacioretty as the Montreal captain.
Well, that's according to Michel Villeneuve. On a French I think a French radio station, or TV, maybe, I'm not sure which one, so I won't say, but could be TVA. Therrien had told a few people that Pacioretty is the worst captain in Habs history. Okay, the worst.
Really,
Nothing
the worst?
Extremes. Nothing like extremes. Yep. No, the worst captain in Habs history. I mean, and I know, I'm sure Terry remembers the captains from the 1907 era, but yes, this is Pacioretty is the worst captain in Habs history. Of course, he made him captain, so what does that make him? But anyway.
Do you notice that Michel Therrien says a lot to other people, and it always comes out in the way of sources, and it's never good. It's always ripping.
And it's usually bad. It's usually worse when it's in French.
But yes,
like
he's always
far more nasty than an English-speaking French Therrien.
Yes, he's always ripping certain players. I like the Michel Therrien that was in the AHL that just sort of let it all out in the open. And even when he first started in the NHL, now he's doing it with sources. It really bugs me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough.
That wasn't Michel Therrien. That was Mike Therrien.
It was Michel.
And for this to come out like on the heels of this comment by Tortorella, it's very strange. And then
of course calculated.
Right, and that's of course again. Now you say this now. Again, Pacioretty is a very popular Hab by Hab fans. Despite his Americanism, he's very popular Canadian.
Goals, like what's not to like?
Right, and he's a solid player, right? So, if they hear this is just going to make Canadian fans dislike Therrien all the more. So now you go into that. So then Bob McKenzie comes out and says Michel Therrien there's not a short leash on him. They basically saying that Michel Therrien is going to be able to survive this season, and we shouldn't start calling for his head yet, right? So,
well, we kind of figured that out last year.
Yeah,
I mean, if there's a leash on him, it's made of bubble wrap or something, because it's not working.
We pretty much know that Marc Bergevin and Michel Therrien are tied at the hip. That if one goes, they're probably both going. So I don't think that organization is ready to flush both down the toilet right away. They're going to give them the season. They're going to allow them to bury themselves. If they make the playoffs and they have a run, they'll stay. And if they miss the playoffs and it's as much of a disaster as last year, or if the Shea Weber for PK Subban deal or the Radulov signing looks stupid or detrimental to the team, then they might both go. But I don't think Therrien's going to be thrown as a sacrificial lamb for Mark Bergevin. I think he's tied to him.
Why can't the Canadians ever wait for the season to start before you even start any of this, right?
Well,
like
I
don't get it.
About the season starting, the best way to put it is like, think of football in America, and think of what happens week to week in the NFL. Like gosh, and what's happened? Like, just listen to radio in Philadelphia right now, and you've got.
I get it, but you don't have to comment on it. You don't have to fan flames. You don't.
I just know
you're right. I agree with that. I just think that Therrien's such an interesting case in so many ways, and and obviously, I have my own issues with him, and he's got his own issues with me. But beyond that,
I just know that Toronto fans just are feeling so compassionate right now for the fans in Montreal about how the dysfunction of their organization is just making.
I don't think that's. You're really trying to get us in trouble here, aren't you? Honestly.
Well, 1993 wasn't
this
that
has
long.
Nothing to do with the Maple Leafs.
Gillian, were you alive in 1993? You were? Okay.
I was very young.
This has nothing to do with the Maple Leafs. This has everything. And then the Canadian fans are phenomenal fans, and they are absolutely.
I'm not saying anything about the Canadians.
And the reality of the situation is they are smart fans too, and they know that Michel Therrien's not working. And
they're phenomenal fans unless you drive into the playoffs with like New York license plates or New Jersey license plates when they're playing their team. Then they're not phenomenal fans.
I enjoyed it because when I went with Jonathan, it was to a Flyers Canadians game, and he was an idiot and wore his Devils jersey, and he got way more crap than I did. Like nobody even said anything to me.
Like I said, Canadian fans are smart fans. Never pick on. First of all, French Canadian fans are not going to pick on the blonde woman, Jillian. That's basic science.
Sorry.
You're set there. Secondly, the Devils, they're going to go after the Devils every time, so that's perfectly fine.
I enjoyed it. I made fun of him a lot too, so it was fine.
It's all just. Okay, so Babcock has also decided to come out with some tough talk today.
Oh boy.
He has told his players that if you turn your back to the puck in the D zone, you have to pay $50 to Sid's charity.
Wait, what? Say this again?
All right, so follow along here. If you turn your back to the puck in the D zone, that's $50 for Sid's charity. What essentially that means is this.
You mean for sudden infant death syndrome? Is that what Sid's is? Okay.
No.
Just making sure. No?
Sid Crosby.
For Sidney Crosby's charity.
Russ, I actually thought the same thing. I was like,
okay,
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe that is Sid. I don't believe it. Anyway, so very serious thing too. Sudden infant death syndrome. Definitely support it. So anyway,
no, it is, and that's why I was thinking. Well, okay, that's great.
Yes, support the charity. Okay, so what this means is the Canadian defense I noticed this against the U.S. too, has the same disease that the Chicago Blackhawks defense tends to have, which is that when a puck's sent back into the corner, they go get the puck, but they turn to look for the hit, and by turning and looking for the hit, leaving the puck behind them. They give up the puck, where you have to go face the boards, face the fact you're going to get hit, and just deal with it. And that's what Babcock is saying, and it's interesting. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, I don't know. I didn't expect this kind of stuff at this point in the game. Like we haven't even started the tournament yet, and here Babcock is
posturing, pre-tournament posturing. That's all it is.
Legitimately feel like all of this is just they need more publicity. They're trying to get as much ridiculous. And now, at first I was like, oh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe. Now I'm like, it's definitely what all this is.
Yeah, it's pre-tournament posturing.
USA Hockey and Hockey Canada must have sent a missive to Tortorella and Babcock and saying, stir up the pot.
No, I don't.
That's what it sounds like.
No, I don't think they did that. I just think these guys know that right now they have the forum, and they figured they would just juice up the rivalry, and that's it. I think that's all they're doing.
Maybe. I'm not. I think this is legit. I think this is legit. I think this is a legit thing. I really do.
So when he says Sid's charity, what does he actually mean? I know Sidney Crosby, but like, what? Like, is he making a joke
I don't know. I wish I did know that.
what?
I'm gonna look it up.
I don't know. I don't know what Sidney Crosby.
I was trying to look it up, and I could only find the quote. I couldn't find like what he meant.
Right. I don't know. Wish I knew.
Like, is there a charity that Sidney Crosby supports?
There definitely is, and I know tons of Pittsburgh fans are screaming at us right now because it's obviously something that's in Pittsburgh all the time.
Well, tell us in the chat. There's the chat in the.
Yeah, if you know what's going on.
Well, it's a very vague statement. Like, it doesn't say like. I don't know if he was being sarcastic about it.
Yeah, no, it's not sarcastic. It's definitely
okay.
It's definitely he has a real charity, and he's saying $50. So I think we need to count this $50 thing and figure it out. I think we need to. Someone needs to take tabs on it in Pittsburgh. I'm willing to do it. I'm going to be there, so I'm going to take tabs on how many times they do turn their back to the puck in the defense.
All right. So he's got a foundation that he started in 2009, and trying to see what they do. It looks like it's a children's charity, so that's nice.
No, it's awesome. I'm
an organization to improve the lives of children who are sick and struggling. That's nice.
Sure.
Yeah, Sid's a great guy. Sid's a great person.
He does a lot of really charitable stuff too.
He really does. I mean, that's not, he's a really top person. All right, I want a question for you guys. Okay, you guys can see this, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, this is the Team North America logo, obviously.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else not know that there's a Roman numeral 23 in the middle of this?
I mean, I saw it, but I didn't know what it represented, and I just didn't care to ask.
Not the age.
It's the age, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Someone just pointed out to me yesterday, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't even think about it. It's so light and everything like that. But I don't know. What do you think of these? What do you think of these uniforms? I like the actual. I was surprised. I like the white uniforms better than I like the dark ones.
I like the Team North America because it's different. The age thing is kind of weird that it's on there, I guess, and I just sort of shrugged it off. I mean, again, are you going to put like 38 on Team Europe for Chara? Like, I just don't know why.
You get really harp on these numbers, man. You really do. You were harping on them about the other ones where it's like, if it's not on all of them, it should be on none of them.
Russ, they're not going to put 38. They're going to put the AARP sticker on.
I mean, I'm just saying, it just seems weird, but I do like it. And
why would it be weird? It's like that's like not the number one, but it is a major criteria for that team. You cannot be over that age, or else you're not on Team North America. So it kind of is important to Team North America.
I mean,
so looking at both of these, I mean, I was surprised. Like I don't like jerseys that come off as just black, And this one comes out. It's a cool jersey to probably own and wear.
Yeah, it's grown on me.
But when you watch it in a game on television, it really does not look good. It's one of those jerseys that I don't like just black.
Disagree.
Where I actually thought I was really kind of pleasantly surprised with the Team Europe jerseys, the way they looked live. I thought they looked
they're
cool.
Still so new.
Yeah, they're still new.
And, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on them yet. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I like them. I do. I like the different color blue. It looked good to me. I don't know why. I'm not in. But what I'm disappointed in is Finland's jerseys, I have to say. So I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, we'll see. I mean,
it'll be interesting to see certain teams pit, like when they're up against somebody else, how the colors go up against each other. That's what I'm more interested in seeing.
I mean, I thought Canada and the U.S. did a good job on both of theirs. I think that both are good. I love the U.S. white ones more, but
I'm sure that each individual country was consulted before the jerseys were produced, but I don't remember ever the Team Finland having that red emblem.
Yeah, that's a new thing.
Yeah, I'm just used to that blue and white combo.
Yeah, I was a big fan of their of that off blue, that baby blue white thing. I like that.
I always like, and Swami or however SUOMI on there. I always like, but now they have this emblem and it's sort of it just doesn't look right. But that I'm sure that they signed off on it, but it just looks a little strange.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's just a different version. Like, just looks a little different.
What it does is the only thing that is kind of cool about it is Finland. It does give like a Russian feel to the Finland jersey a little bit.
Yeah, but that's the last thing that the Finns want.
That's the last thing the Finns people want. But there is definitely a case that these are bordering countries and they have a long history.
Yeah, you're talking about country that invaded the other in 1940.
I know, not a great history, but
not exactly what they want.
So Finn versus USA tonight in Washington, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Wait, 2 games are in Washington today. Is
It's
that
in
right?
Washington, yes.
Right. There's 2 Washington games tonight. Is that right? Are both in Washington? Like 2 are in Pittsburgh tomorrow. I'm confused. Because who's the other? Sweden plays somebody in Washington too, right?
I'll check.
Anyway, Finn versus USA tonight. Pekka Rinne's in goal. Back in goal. Aho and Lepisto are going to be in, and Teravainen and Paka are out.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Teravainen is an interesting player to me. Like, we're going to see now. Obviously, he's been traded, right? So he's not going to be on the. He's a Hurricane now.
That's correct.
And it's hard to imagine that because he just seems like he's always been a Blackhawk in our heads, and even though he hasn't been in the league that long, he just felt like he's played a lot of time because we've seen him in the playoffs, we've seen him in all different sorts of situations. And he could really do well but at the same time when you watch him play, you're like, he's on that edge of going either way to me.
See, I don't think so. I think he was underutilized. I think he was playing a role in Chicago and never got to play his true role. He's really good on the power play, but you didn't see him on the power play. He was sort of playing like the Jesper Fast role for Chicago, and he's got a lot more offense than like Jesper Fast does in his game. And so I think it was kind of unfair, if you ask me. And I think we are going to see a much better player now offensively. I think that's what's going to show up here.
Okay. Well, I would love to see that because, it's one of those guys that, kind of like Yashin. Like, I want to see him in another place. Not Yashin. Gosh, Yashin. Oh, my God. What am I saying?
Malkin.
No, not Malkin. My Lord. Yakupov. Man, oh, man.
God.
I want to see these guys in other places, right? So I want to see what Yakupov would do with his own, team sort of that is built around him a little more than him trying to squeeze into a second or third line spot.
Okay, here's the schedule. Tonight there's 1 game, Finland U.S. in Washington at the Verizon Center. Tomorrow there are 3 games. One is Team North America versus the Czech Republic, at 3:30 in the afternoon start on a Wednesday, which is bizarre.
I'll be at that one.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Because that'll get no viewership except for the 5 people who have ESPN3.
I'm DVRing it. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Then 6 people. There you go. Team Canada versus Team Russia in Pittsburgh at 7:30, and in Washington at the same time, Team Sweden versus Team Europe.
Okay, right. So there you go. So that's what I was thinking. So Washington, because I knew Backstrom was playing in Washington tomorrow night. And Team Europe will finally get to play somebody that's not Team North America, which is good for them because they need to play a team that's not Team North America.
So they can lose 8-1 this time.
Well, I don't know. I saw a quote. I don't know when it came out. Maybe yesterday, today, from the Buffalo area, where Sekera says, "I don't think I'm washed up." Well, Sekera, I got news for you. Based on your performance against Team North America, you just might be.
Yeah.
Tough words from Russ Cohen.
No, I'm sorry. Did you not see guys going around him and around him?
Tough words. It's interesting that Team North America gets what is arguably the easiest preseason schedule, and yet probably has the hardest tournament schedule. I think having to play, playing Team Europe twice and the Czech team once, but then having to play Sweden, Finland, and Russia in the tournament. That's
I don't
tough.
think they care, though. Do you get the impression?
Oh no, they don't care.
They don't care. Like, this is a team that is just completely motivated to prove themselves, and they don't care who they're playing against. They're not starstruck. They don't want to get autographs of their heroes after the game. You know what I mean? It's like all business for them. That's what I like about them.
Yeah, I think what it is a lot. There's a lot to do about the maturity of younger players now, and the fact that they're playing at these high level tournaments so much younger. That this is not a big deal to them, like this, this could be, you would think this is a giant deal to them, and it's not. And somebody did say the other day, the experience that they're getting playing in this tournament is pretty phenomenal. And I do agree with that. Like, there's something
it's helpful. Yeah.
To be said for their development, having to play in this tournament and learn and playing against the best players in the world and these teams that are just the best teams you'll ever play against. I know it's got to be hard for these players. Like, Jillian, you were like an ODP player in soccer and all that. When you go and you play with these top teams, then you go back to your travel team, and sometimes some of the players aren't necessarily where they were. I think it's hard for some of these players to go back to their teams, in situations.
I also think part of it has to do with the fact that Hockey Canada and USA Hockey, it seems like once you screw anything up with them at all, you are forever like shut out. Like you don't get it's almost like you don't get a second chance with them. And for these younger players, it's like they have something to play for more or less in that regard too. Like if they ever want to have a shot with Hockey Canada or USA Hockey, they better show up, do it right, shake everybody's hand, smile about it, and go about their way, be professional. And that's going to be important for them because I think that USA Hockey and Hockey Canada are pretty tight about how they handle the players.
That's why guys like Shane Doan and Ryan Smith, when they were playing in their careers, would go to every World Championship because they wanted to ingratiate themselves to Hockey Canada. So when it came to the time to get to the Olympics, a tournament that actually mattered to Canadians, that they would be chosen. But the World Championships to them really didn't. I don't really think it meant that much for Canada for a number of years. Now that it's at a sort of a higher level, I think it means a little more. But back then it was just paying homage to Hockey Canada and going to a tournament that they had trouble getting players to go to.
Right. I'd say that's true. All right, so now the latest from Funko. You know who Funko is?
Yep.
I know the rest would know this. This is So we're going to go through. The Funko is now putting up the Pop Hockey line. I don't know if you've seen this or not, so I'm trying to make it a little smaller there. Okay, so here's Funko, and of course, we've got Jamie Benn, looking kind of frightened, as Funko people tend to. I like how they really do take time with the hair, but the face. It's funny, the faces are all the same.
I would have thought for the hockey line they would at least maybe give him a 5 o'clock shadow or a little.
They did on some. So here's Crosby, of course, who can't have a 5 o'clock shadow in real life.
Yeah, I never knew Crosby and Jamie Benn looked like brothers.
Yeah, they look exactly the same. Patrick Kane.
They've given Patrick Kane more hair than he actually has.
That's true. Plus, he should be about half that size. All right, and then the Lundqvist, who they gave the shadow to.
I wonder what the prerequisite was to get the 5 o'clock shadow. Like, what did you have to do to get that 5 o'clock shadow?
I love this. You know why? This is the first time Henrik Lundqvist has ever looked bad.
I know. This is actually, you can't make it.
That gives hope to the rest of us.
You can't make it pop beautiful enough to represent.
Always looks good.
Connor.
He's always dressed nice, too. Like,
we know, Jillian. We know.
There's Connor McDavid. It's interesting. Lundqvist his eyebrows look a little more angry than Connor McDavid's.
Yes.
All right, so there's Connor McDavid.
His eyes look like when he was announced that he was going to Edmonton.
Jonathan Toews has like the happy, nice eyebrows. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice guy, Mr. Captain. And then Morgan Riley. Which one of these is not like the other? Which one of these doesn't belong? Okay, so Morgan Riley.
Morgan Riley, really? That's surprising.
Morgan Riley gets one. Yep. Followed by Steven Stamkos. Now, Steven Stamkos' face.
He looks so miserable and
like the sleepy eyes.
Because he re-signed with Tampa. That's why.
Sleepy, sexy eyes going on there. Right?
He has to go be in the beautiful weather and better money.
He looks like he's gonna go to a woman and say your eyes are pools of water.
Wait, go back. They don't have the C on Taves' jersey.
No, they don't. They might know something we don't know.
They put it on Kane. Hold on, go back.
Did they?
No, they didn't put it on anybody.
No, I guess you got to draw your own.
Timeless.
They have it on Stamkos.
I know, and Crosby.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, now that is weird. Okay.
And Crosby, yep. And
Come on,
Ben.
Funko, you could do better than that.
Yeah.
And especially because it's the Blackhawks too. It's
Here we go. Alex Ovechkin.
I can't.
Now we're talking.
I can't.
That's fantastic.
I will
that's
break
the best
you.
one. That is the best one.
So far, that's a good one. Connor McDavid. Didn't they have 2 Connor McDavids?
Yeah, they have the home and away.
Yeah.
He's so good. The pop so twice. Carey Price. There he is. Carey, hi.
Why do some of them look so angry?
Be careful with this Carey Price. It'll break if you drop it.
Carey Price obviously uses just for men because his beard is different color than his hair.
Yeah. Good point. Let's see who else we have here. The away Carey Price.
I like the pads on the away. That's great.
The away Morgan Riley. You can get 2 Morgan Rileys here. Pretty crazy.
Interesting.
The away Jonathan Toews.
No C on the white Jonathan Toews.
It's interesting how none of them have mouths. I just want to point that out too.
And their noses are all tiny noses.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Wait, go back to the Ovechkin for a minute. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you notice they're all Canadian exclusives. I like. Why aren't they in the States?
Right. Look at that. That's true.
Because you can buy like these kind of dolls. Like if you go to Hot Topic, they have different ones of these. Like
right,
they're not just a Canadian doll, right?
Well, no, those are Canadian exclusives.
No,
but I mean, in general, like the brand is
general.
not a Canadian exclusive.
Right.
The away versions of these guys are Canadian exclusives.
Okay, that's
ones,
the Canadian exclusive. Okay.
the home ones are
okay.
not. It's when you get to the aways that you start to see them. Yeah. That's interesting. There you go. Yes, the away versions are Canadian.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you gotta have a Morgan Riley in home and away.
Of course.
It is really bizarre to me that they went with him. I mean, could they not have gone with Austin Matthews here? I mean,
well, you have to factor in that they probably started production on these before the Leafs got the first pick.
So last year, if you were making one of these, you would have said Morgan Riley. That's the guy I'm going to go with.
He was the best player on the team last year, probably. I mean, Nazem Kadri. I mean, no.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the reality. The company sits down with the league after they get the license and they become a licensee, and they do go over a list, and the league tries to help them and saying, hey,
I'm sure.
They show them, who sells best and everything else, and Riley probably sold the most jerseys, so Riley got picked. I mean, I know a little bit about this part of the business, and I think that's what caused it. I think Mike's right too.
And yet you have to factor in, biggest hockey market in the NHL.
Oh yeah, no, they have to make a Maple Leaf one, right?
Yeah, and he's on the top pairing on Team North America. He's 22 years old. He's probably going to be their team captain if it isn't Matthews in a few years. I mean, if you're going to pick a Toronto player, he was the safest choice.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, you got like Nylander and other players too, but I guess
he's not established yet. I mean, he's been in the league now. Yeah. He's been in the league for years.
No, I think Riley's the right choice.
How about I would have said I don't know, Van Riemsdyk too. But anyway,
might get traded.
He
might. He's only got 2 years.
It's possible. It's possible. All right, so tomorrow's show time. Stay tuned for it. We're not quite sure exactly when it's going to be. I am thinking it might be in the morning. I'll talk to you guys later about it. We'll figure it out for sure because I'm going to probably be driving to Pittsburgh, but I'll do it from the car. Not as driving, but I will have somebody else driving. But I will do it from the car at that point. So, because all likelihood I will be arriving in Pittsburgh right around the time this show starts, and with not a whole lot of time to get ready for the game at 3, unless we do it between the games or something. We can figure out something, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. But remember, guys, just keep supporting us on Patreon. We really appreciate your help, and we will be getting back to some Patreon shows in the very near future here as well. Last week, remember, we had some issues with Google, and if for those of you who don't do Google Live Hangouts yourself, it's good. They've made a whole huge changeover to YouTube now, so it's a little bit complicated. It's harder to do what we've been doing with the Patreon shows, where you have a private show. But I've been talking to people, and there's a way to do it. We just have to figure out exactly how. So as soon as we figure out how, we will do a show for you guys. And I'll be leaving for Canada on Saturday morning. And Jillian, when are you going to be up there?
I get there Saturday. My flight from Chicago leaves Saturday morning.
Because I think that you, Kevin Allen, and I need to organize a meetup and at a bubble hockey thing like you were talking about.
I would agree. We'll figure out what time, because I know Jonathan, I think, gets there Friday.
Okay.
So I'm going to send him on his little merry way and have him go scope everything out. And
just put him in a devil shirt and have him just be ravaged by
No, he is being a jerk. And if you guys want to guess what he's doing, it has to involve Phil Kessel. So he's he's being a troll. So he's just having fun with it. Whatever makes, he's going to have a good time with it. But
so come to the meetup and beat up Jillian's significant other.
I mean, he's a very nice guy. So
I'll be there on Sunday, so I'll take on all comers.
Maybe we should do it Sunday then. If you can, we should do it on Sunday then. We'll figure it all out. But
and we'll have you send out a tweet to everybody so that everyone knows where we're going to be. And
if you see us if you see Jillian or me or Mike or anybody in Toronto, come up and say hi. It's we don't bite. It's nice to say hi to people. It's nice to meet people who watch the show.
I'm very friendly, and
Jillian's extremely friendly. I mean,
I'm not, but
I guess not.
Say hi anyway.
I am friendly, so there. One of
Friendly.
one of us will be nice to you, okay?
Mike, as you can tell, is extremely friendly. Mike's always been very friendly, and I really wanted to show you guys something that is so funny. But I can't. I don't have time for it today, but I will show it to you guys later. Next week. That just is gonna. I got to do it on the show. It's awesome. It's all about being happy, and it just fits Mike perfectly to a T. So, and a lot of people. It's actually really well done. So I'll talk to you about it later. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will see you tomorrow. Take care.